is Friday, July the 3rd, 1986. We're with Aunt Tommie. Aunt Tommie, what is your full name?
Juanita Claudia Mars.
What was your maiden name?
Holderfield.
Holderfield. When were you born?
October the 14th, 1924.
Where were you born?
Seminole, Oklahoma.
Seminole. What were the names of your mother and father?
My mother's name was Dana. My father's name was Lewis.
And do you know their full names?
Lewis Watt, Oklahoma. Lewis Watt Holderfield.
Okay.
Dana Rickard Tilley.
Yeah. I've done some of these, so I know some of this information.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when your mother was born?
I really don't.
You know, she died in summer of 64.
64.
June of 64.
Right.
Do you remember much about your father?
Not really. I probably was about, I was about 16 when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I should remember. I remember some of them, you know. He was a fantastic man.
What do you remember about him? I mean, is there anything that stands out in your mind as to physical characteristics? Was he large like Leon and Archie, or was he...
I don't believe he was quite as large, as tall as Archie and Leon was, but he was a good-sized man.
They tell that he was kind of the practical joker, kind of like Leon was. Do you remember when he died?
I want to say in 42. Now, I'm not really sure.
Okay. Did you ever meet any of your grandparents?
I never knew either one of them.
Never did. You were the youngest of the children.
I was the youngest.
There was Esty, and was it Archie?
Archie.
And then Aunt Faye.
Aunt Faye. Then there was a baby that died. And then there was Aunt Vera, Aunt Berna, Uncle Leon, and myself.
Okay. Do you remember anything in your childhood that stands out in your mind as a funny incident that happened with any of your brothers or sisters? I'm sure there was a lot of things that happened, but any one thing that happened to you or that you did to someone else?
Well, there was a 2 years difference between Verna and Vera and I, but I used to kind of look up to them, you know, and try to follow them around. And of course, Leon and I were close because we were closer age.
Were you the, did they do all the joking on you, or did you play some of the jokes on them? You know, when you were young? I'm sure being the baby, you got a lot of teasing.
I got a lot of teasing, and I was probably overly protected. You know, when I can remember ever teasing was Leon. We'd make candy, and he would get into it. Then one night we put it out, and the cats got into it. We didn't tell Leon, and he ate every bit of it after the cats had been into it. I remember that so plain.
You spent your childhood years, I guess, on the farm.
On the farm.
Did you live on the farm all through school?
Yes.
And you went to school in Seminole?
In Seminole.
Did y'all ride a bus to school, or?
We rode a bus to school. That my father drove the school bus.
Is that right? As far as the family life, did religion play a big role?
Yes, we were brought up very religious. We were taken to church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, Wednesday night. Our home was very religious.
Do you feel like that they were more strict on you than parents of today would be on their children?
Well, it's hard to say because Then I thought they were pretty strict. If I wanted to wear a short dress, I couldn't. I had to wear long stockings, but they weren't overly strict.
Not unfair in any.
No.
Okay. Of course, at that time, you probably thought it was unfair, but
Well,
looking back on it now.
At that time, yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's take a little break here just for a second. And, Aunt Tommie, when did you first marry?
I first married when I was 21 years old.
Did you marry in Oklahoma?
No, I met my husband-to-be in Seminole, and he lived in California. Then I went out to California and married him there in Oakland.
What brought him to Seminole, do you remember?
He was originally from Seminole.
Oh, was he?
He had relatives living there.
I see.
An aunt and uncle.
So you moved to California when you were in your early 20s?
Right.
And you and Bill were married, Bill Golden. Where were y'all married?
We were married in Oakland, California.
Do you remember where you met him?
I met him in a bowling alley.
Bowling alley.
In Seminole.
What was Bill's occupation?
He was a welder.
Do you know what the age difference was in the two of you?
I was 1 year older than Bill.
Okay. How long after you were married was your first child born?
2 years later.
2 years. That was Fred.
That was Fred.
Do you remember when Fred was born?
He was born December the 1st, 1948.
Okay. And when did Fred die?
Fred died, was in November. He's been gone about 7 years, 8 years, what if I make it.
Okay. And Stephen was born, do you remember when Stephen was born?
He was born in 1950.
Okay. What was the date, you know?
May 22nd.
May 22nd. And then David was born when?
David was born August 22nd, 1958.
58. Okay. Were there any other children that was...
That's it, 3 boys.
3 boys. You and Bill were divorced when?
17 years, 18 years ago, what would that be? See, I'm not good on
That would have been 1968.
68. That's just about right, about 68.
Okay. Did you immediately move from California to...
No, it was about 2 years later.
2 years later. Why did you move back?
Well, I met and married Andy Mars, and he moved to Texas, and I followed him to Texas.
Was Andy living in California at the time?
When I met him, he was living in California, yes.
Okay. And so you and Andy have been married now,
About
15 years?
15 years.
Okay. You're now living in Houston. Was there any... did y'all live anywhere between California and Houston?
No, we moved directly to Houston.
Okay. Your grandchildren, you have Sarah that you're close to, and then Fred's daughter, Renee, that you're not real close to, but you have had some contact with. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how old Renee is now?
Renee is, Renee is about 17.
17. And of course Sarah she's 10. Okay. Describe the family life with the 3 boys as they were growing up. I'm sure it was...
Well, we were just outdoormans. Did a lot of camping. Their father worked away from town quite a bit. And I'd get the boys, and we'd get in the trailer, and we'd go to the mountains. Practically every weekend, or sometimes during the summer, we'd camp for 2 weeks. We did a lot together.
Well, Fred was quite a bit older than David.
Yes.
And, well, Fred and Stephen were both quite a bit older than David. Was David more or less treated like the baby by the older kids?
Yes. He was treated like the baby.
Okay. Well, he was the baby, so I guess you wouldn't know it now, but...
No, you wouldn't know it, but I guess you'll always be the baby.
Do you feel like you've had a full life?
I really have no complaints on my life. I've been good.
I think it's safe to say that you're content with your lifestyle now, is that right? Is there anything else that you want to say about your childhood or about your life that you'd like to pass on to your kids and maybe your grand's kind of putting you on the spot?
Yeah, it really is. I have really no advice. Just let them be as good as they are. You know, just stay as sweet as they are and as good as they are.
Okay.
I'm proud of them.
Okay, let me ask the question. Let's go back to your childhood a little bit. When you were growing up, you went to school in Seminole, is that right?
Right, in Seminole.
Was there just one school?
There was, the grade school and the high school.
The high school. Was there a lot of kids in the school or just a few?
No, it was a good-sized school, but we lived out in the country, and it's different then. You didn't have a lot of friends like you do today. It was kind of a loners.
Well, you more or less depended on your brothers and sisters for entertainment instead of everybody else. Did you and Uncle Leon ever have any big squabbles as kids, or were y'all, I'm sure you two being the youngest ones, you were probably as close to him as you were to anybody else?
We really were, and I can't remember ever having any fights with him.
Probably kids arguing.
Yeah, arguing how kids do, but I always looked to him for protection if anything happened. I mean, he sort of took care of me as in school.
He was, 3 years older than you?
Leon was 3 years older.
Okay. You're probably closer to the kids of the older three than you are to the older three, is that right?
Yes, because they had children almost my age, and Esty did. And
I see.
Kenneth, I think, was only about maybe a year older than me. If he's even that old. And then these kids were pretty close to me.
Well, when you were growing up, did you see them a lot? Were they around the Seminole area? Or?
Yes, Estes lived just below where Mom and Papa lived. And I remember going down there and playing with Kenneth, and Leon and I did. And,
was Esty married when you were born?
Yes.
She'd already been married Uncle Luke. That's kind of strange the way there was almost two families within one family.
Right.
As far as the younger ones and the older ones. As far as Grandma Holderfield, was she extremely strict on y'all or somewhat lenient? Or?
She really wasn't strict on us. We might at the time thought she was, but I look back and she wasn't. She was very lenient with us.
Do you remember the trip to California?
No, I don't.
You don't remember that? You were just probably a baby, I guess, at that time.
I think I had just started walking.
All right. Well, there's a lot of stories about the trip to California, about Grandma Holderfield pinching them when they were...
Well, she used to be good about that. She'd pinch you under the table. She never whipped us, but at the table we had to sit and behave.
No, do you remember your father ever whipping you?
I never received a whipping from my father that I remember.
Sure remember. I'm sure that if Uncle Archie were here, he could probably tell a different story.
Yes, he probably could. He probably could.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all. What do you think about the reunions as they're coming along?
I think they're fantastic, and I hope the kids keep them going.
I hope so, too. Well, thank you a lot, Aunt Tommie.
with my